In a world ruled by cameras and applause, there are moments when time simply halts. Moments that pierce through the noise of lights and interviews. Moments where silence screams louder than any microphone could bear. And in one such moment, Wang Yibo stood still, at the edge of a backstage corridor, tucked behind curtains and shadows. He was unmoving, breathing, but barely, eyes fixed on a single point. A figure who had, without permission, without even trying, taken quiet residence in the deepest chamber of his guarded heart. Xiao Zhan. But this time, it wasn't admiration in Yibo's eyes. Not the subtle warmth fans had caught in behind-the-scenes clips. Not the amused twinkle he used to hide in half-smiles. Not calm, not joy. It was something else. Something sharper. A gaze that pierced through the air. Heavy with emotion. Unmistakable. Undeniable. Someone had just embraced Xiao Zhan. A gesture that to anyone else looked innocent. Sweet. Friendly. A hug, nothing more. But to Wang Yibo, it wasn't just a hug. It was a fracture. A small, delicate break in a silence they had long shared. Because when you've loved someone in silence, loved with a patience that hurts, with a longing that never demands, even the gentlest touch from someone else feels like thunder. They met years ago on the set of the Untamed. It wasn't an explosive meeting. No sudden spark. No drama. Just a quiet beginning. Two strangers who didn't disturb the world, but slowly began to shift each other's. Behind the fantasy costumes and the rehearsed sword fights, something grew. Slowly, tenderly. Shared jokes whispered between takes. Lingering glances across crowded sets. Shoulders brushing in passing. Comfortable silence that felt like music. To the world, they were co-stars. To fans, an on-screen pairing. To tabloids, just another headline. But to Wang Yibo, Xiao Zhan became something far more dangerous. Far more delicate. He became home. The only place Yibo didn't have to wear his armor. Didn't have to be composed, perfect, unreachable. With Xiao Zhan, he could breathe. He could laugh with his whole chest. He could rest. And maybe that's why, the sight of someone else's arms around Xiao Zhan felt like betrayal. Not by Xiao Zhan, but by a world that would never let Yibo hold him like that. Behind the stage of a recent event, a camera accidentally caught something. Something raw, unfiltered. Wang Yibo's expression. He hadn't noticed the camera. His guard was down for a second. And that second was enough. His jaw, once relaxed, was now locked. His eyes, normally so unreadable, now burned with an ache he couldn't disguise. His hands, deep in his pockets, had curled into fists. Not in rage, not in hatred, but in heartbreak, the kind that makes you feel like a child again. Small, unseen, unchosen. One staff member later whispered. Yibo walked off alone. Didn't say a word. He just disappeared. No outburst. No confrontation. Just the soundless retreat of someone who needed to breathe. He walked through the narrow corridor. Found a place no one could see him. And stood there, staring at the floor. Not crying. Not moving. Just existing in a storm that only he could feel. And when he came back, his face was blank. But his eyes weren't. They never were, not when it came to Xiao Zhan. Yibo had always carried himself with restraint. Cool, composed, almost distant. But fans, the ones who had followed their story since the Untamed, the ones who noticed every micro-expression, every breath between words, they saw it. They saw the change. They saw the shift in energy. The way he didn't smile after that moment. The way his body language shut down. The way he looked. Wounded. Because jealousy, when rooted in unspoken love, isn't loud. It isn't violent. It's quiet. Still. But devastating. It sits in the corners of your mind. It steals your breath when you least expect. It whispers, again and again. Why wasn't it me? And still, he said nothing. Because he couldn't. Because in their world, love is not declared. It's not allowed. It's not safe. What they have exists in shadows. In codes only they understand. In gestures too subtle for tabloids to dissect. It lives in the way Yibo always finds Xiao Zhan in a crowd. In the way he angles his body slightly toward him, even when standing still. In the way Xiao Zhan's laughter seems fuller when Yibo's around. In the way their silence together never feels awkward. And yet, even with all that, they are not free. Yibo cannot say, "That's my person." He cannot step forward when someone else wraps their arms around Xiao Zhan. He cannot ask questions, cannot ask for clarity. He can only feel, in silence, and return to that silence once more. In an interview not long ago, Wang Yibo said quietly, almost dismissively, almost too casually, "I just don't like seeing him that close to someone else." No name, no details. But the fans knew. They didn't need confirmation. They had seen the years of glances. The way Yibo softened only around one person. The way he lit up, rarely, but truly, when Xiao Zhan was beside him. After a photo shoot some time later, Xiao Zhan had walked up to him. Cheerful, warm, casual, as always. Yibo looked at him, just for a second, and then turned away. Not cold, but distant, like a door gently closing. Not because Xiao Zhan had done something wrong, but because Yibo couldn't bear the ache of being near him, while still feeling replaceable, even if only for a moment. And perhaps the cruelest part of love in silence is knowing you can't say anything, even when your heart is breaking. But despite it all, despite the pain, the jealousy, the restraint, he stays. He always finds his way back to Xiao Zhan. Because no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much he wishes he could hold him without consequence, he knows Xiao Zhan is the only place that's ever felt safe. The only person who ever saw him, not as an icon, or an idol, but as a boy who, for once, just wanted to be loved back. And maybe, that's why we, the watchers, the fans, the quiet witnesses, feel so much when we see them together. Because something in us recognizes that kind of love. The one that isn't spoken. The one that exists in glances. In absences. In jealousy so silent it becomes poetry. They may never confirm it. They may never say the words. But we've seen enough to know. This is love, in its most vulnerable form. Unsaid, but undeniable. Did you see it too? The way Yibo's eyes follow Xiao Zhan, even when Xiao Zhan isn't looking. The way silence folds around them like a shared secret. Because sometimes, the loudest love is the one that remains unspoken. The kind that doesn't need labels. Just presence, and pain, and patience. If this story touched something in your heart, don't forget to like the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe for more stories behind the silence. Because often, what's never said, is what's most deeply felt.